It's time for the No BS podcast, episode number 212 for the week of October 21st, 2013. Thanks to everyone who's listening and everyone who's watching over here on the camera. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the recently escalated GPU wars between AMD and Nvidia. What started out as a kind of a low-level skirmish in Hawaii last month has broken out into a full-fledged
Thunderdome.
Yeah, Thunderdome. Tactical skirmish. I don't know what you call it. It's getting bad. But for us, it's getting pretty good. We'll also cover the Intel's Broadwell delay, discuss a little bit of Battlefield 4, take some questions, go over our editor's picks, and then Gordon Maung will do what he does best. Thanks for joining us. Let's do it. Listening. I know it's been a while since we had one of these podcasts. We'll get into the reasons why in a little bit. But first, we want to welcome our other podcastees, Tom McNamara.
What up?
He's our associate editor, and deputy editor Gordon Maung.
Hello.
Catherine Stevenson is in another meeting right now. She's got official duties to attend to as we just finished our holiday issue today, so she's like approving the cover and stuff like that. And Jimmy Thang is just out of the office.
Yeah, I think he took a vacation day today. He just came back from a long trip to elsewhere.
Yeah, he's been our travel monkey lately, so yeah, he's had to do a lot of that. So before we get into the podcast, I want to address the fact that I know our podcast schedule is now slowing down. I know it was slow before, slow and erratic, and then we kind of righted the ship. And got it going, and then sort of held a really firm schedule for about 6 to 8 months there, and then lately it's been slipping. So the reason why are twofold. In order to make the podcast occur on a normal schedule, we need the staff to be here, and we need the interns to be able to know how to edit it properly. And we've had a mixture of both of those dropping out over the last month or so, where we've had staff vacations plus new interns and this and that. So it's just gotten crazy. So last week we were gonna do it also, but I was gone and Gordon was gone. It's been a real weird perfect storm lately. So we apologize for the delays. We're doing our best to get everything back onto a normal schedule.
Your refunds are in the mail.
Yeah. So this is usually the part of the show where I do a little bit of reader feedback, that type of thing. We have a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to skip over all that and get right into the topics. So our first topic is kind of broad, and the topic is basically the GPU wars. So this is something that we obviously cover on an ongoing basis. We kind of feel lately, though, it feels like, being like conflict reporters, like from the front lines.
Oh yeah, embedded journalism.
Yeah, embedded journalists.
Where's your little flak jacket and Kevlar helmet that they always wear?
It's getting pretty crazy. And if memory serves me, because even the last 2 years where we had the 600 series versus the AMD 7000 series, like it was pretty sportsmanlike, and they kind of both released their cards, and that was pretty much it.
It was limited to the cards themselves. Mine is bigger and longer than yours, and then 6 months later, no, actually, mine is bigger and longer than yours now.
Yeah, there was some of that. AMD did release the gigahertz edition of the 7970. That's a little bit of the old school, GPU stuff. So, just to quickly recap what's happened before we get into it. So, about a month ago, AMD invited the media to Hawaii to show off, a technology demonstration. Basically, they wouldn't say what it was. I think it was just called GPU 14. So at that show, they announced all kinds of new stuff. They announced Mantle, which is its new API for basically low-level API for game developers to code games and optimize them specifically for AMD's GCN hardware. It announced its gaming evolved app, which competes directly with NVIDIA's GeForce Experience.
I think so, yeah.
And then it also announced an entire lineup of new GPUs. Some are new with quotes around them. Others are actually new.
And the gaming evolved thing, they use cloud-based data to determine what are the best settings, whereas GeForce Experience, those settings are determined by NVIDIA itself. So that gets a major difference between the two.
So an AMD, well, that's a side story, but AMD had claimed previously that they weren't working on such an application. they didn't need to because they had all the triple A games in their favor anyways. Crysis 3, Far Cry 3, etc. So instead of developing their own app, they're actually using Raptor, which is Dennis Thresh Fong is CEO of, which I haven't heard his name in a while, but apparently he's doing pretty well for himself. And they're picking up Raptor. Anyways, off topic. So then they also announced they rebadged all their 7000 series cards into now what's known as R9 or R7 series cards.
Yeah.
At much lower prices. And then they also unveiled brand new silicon designed to take on GK110 from Nvidia named Hawaii. So they just kind of flashed a couple numbers, and then that was all we could see.
Yeah, they didn't talk much about the high end. Or did they talk about the? Yeah, it was just rebadges for the 270X, 280X. I think the 260X is new or 270X is new. There's some mixture.
Right. So the way the let me just go over we'll just do a quick recap. So that was pretty much the end of their Hawaii event. So Mantle, the gaming evolved. All new Hawaii cards, all new R9 280 card, or not new, but you know what I mean, rebadged and everything cards, and then I think that's about it.
I think they might use new enhanced PCBs for better thermal performance and acoustic performance.
Well, they have new. They're much more designed for to run more efficient due to their power tune. They're more efficient, much more efficient. I mean, even what we've seen here. I mean, those the old loud Radeon cards are a thing of the past.
Right, but they're still using the same Tahiti and Pitcairn cores and whatnot.
So that event happens, and then not too long after that, Nvidia says, "Hey, we're going to be holding this the way it's meant to be played expo in Montreal."
And where exactly was it located? like a block away from something else that AMD was doing, the same day.
Well, yeah. So Nvidia brings the media down there, and they start showing them off. They kind of start off slow with some software and stuff, and then the second day, that's when they really went for it. They announced this new display adapter technology called G-Sync. It's really cool. They announced unified physics thing called Flex, and they announced a brand new GPU called GTX 780 Ti. Which is in direct response to AMD's launch from 3 weeks ago, specifically designed to trump them.
Yeah, and I think AMD has offices in Montreal.
I know they're based in Ontario.
Okay, but they're up there in that general Canadian area, whereas Nvidia, I think they were just
general Canadian area. That's what
they're in the Canadian area. So in the middle of Nvidia's press event, AMD somehow rented out the hotel directly across the street from wherever Nvidia was.
They just happened to be in the neighborhood.
Yeah, they rented out that an area in that hotel and invited all the media to come to that hotel, and they had set up R9 290Xs, which is their new flagship GPU Hawaii chip, along with in comparison to a 780 running a 4K games. So, and they supposedly said it was faster. The numbers from them are faster. We haven't had a chance to test 4K here ourselves. But so that's pretty hardcore. I mean, that's they did that. AMD pulled something similar at IDF this year, where they were outside. IDF is Intel's conference. They were outside with Pringles cans, saying, "Doesn't anybody want a new chip?" And passing them around and stuff like that.
The I stands for Intel.
That's semi-ballsy, because they don't. I mean, I don't think Intel sees AMD as that big of a threat.
Yeah, and AMD traditionally did show up at IDF. They'd camp out at a hotel down the street, and they'd invite the media over. But this thing with Nvidia, I think that's pretty unusual, isn't it? For them to get so much in their face.
Yeah, directly in their face. Well, they did that. Remember, if you recall that commercial from 2 months ago, where the guy takes the Nvidia card out to in the backyard and starts beating it with a pipe, and a bat, and the guy goes, "Settle down," and he goes, "I never settle." That was pretty. I mean, they're obviously going for the they're not pulling any punches.
They're definitely being a lot more aggressive than they have been in a long time.
Well, AMD also got inside two of the three major consoles for this generation, if you count the Wii U as being of this one and not of the last one. So they've got that in their pocket, which probably pisses off NVIDIA.
Although they also returned to profitability as well this quarter.
Yeah. I think the funny thing is, I swear to God, didn't we have a question here from a reader well, is this it for AMD? Everybody's they're gone, right? They're not going to make it out of this one. I swear we must have answered that question 4 months ago.
We get that about Microsoft too. Oh, this is the end. This is the end. Microsoft is over with. Yeah, they might have a $2 billion quarter or whatever, but this is pretty much the end of it. It's like it's not going to happen.
They might not compete on the high end desktop gaming area, but just as before, they're good for bang for your buck. Like the FX 6300 is a really good CPU for the money.
Well, sort of. We'll talk about that later, right?
Right. And then their APUs are pretty good for entry level gaming and for HTPCs. They're doing okay in different areas.
Yeah, they're making a major push to, stick it to Nvidia. So we can briefly talk about. I mean, it's not just Nvidia, but everybody. So to briefly cover all the stuff. They talked about their Mantle API. That's what I wrote in the magazine was that's their biggest. That was the biggest surprise that they were developing this API, and then basically trying to. Excuse me. They're basically just trying to get developers to develop specifically for their hardware.
Yeah, and nobody's really done that since 3DFX did Glide, and that was like what, almost 15 years ago.
And they would, and then obviously, if they didn't have the consoles,
while ago.
There's no way they would ever be able to pull something like that or even ask for this to even happen. But from what I understand now, though, it is separate. I mean, what's unclear is how this all ties in with the consoles, because now we have these confirmation from Microsoft that the Xbox One does not support Mantle.
Yeah, it's going to be DirectX only, apparently.
So there's that. So then, and Sony is probably not going to. I mean, anyways, it's unclear what it is. I mean, AMD's line is that they're trying to give PC developers the same tools that console developers have, which is direct access to hardware that
Being
able to target specific or more specific hardware.
Right.
Well, actually, to be fair, and someone pointed out to me a couple weeks ago that NVIDIA does have its own API as well. It's called NV API, which clearly nobody ever talks about.
That's the first time I've
right?
heard of it.
Right, and I put that in our feature too. And I know that I think Carmack said something like he's kind of skeptical of Mantle, and it sounds great on paper. I mean, I think everyone's in the same boat. We all think it sounds great on paper. We've yet to see it in the actual demo in the real world. BF4, Battlefield 4 is coming out pretty soon, and the Mantle update will occur in December, so we'll be able to actually test it side by side and see the difference. And we know that all the Frostbite 3 games will be running Mantle. We know that all the Activision PC games will be running Mantle. I mean, it sounds like it's picking up steam already, which is pretty surprising.
Speaking of Steam, we don't have to get in that right now, but they're also in the news.
I'll have to make sure, and next time we're transferring or transitioning into a Valve article, I'll be it is definitely picking up steam. So, Mantle API. So far we don't know what's going to happen with Mantle or whether or not developers will want to use it. It's hard to say. I can already envision AMD sitting there with his checkbook out.
Yeah, but I mean, I think people probably should try to understand the why we need a unifying API, right? Because of course everybody remembers all the API wars of the '90s, famously Glide versus DirectX, and OpenGL, of course, is in there. But I mean, if we look at also the 1990s, there were maybe 10 graphics vendors. So it was in the PC's best interest, and of course Microsoft's best interest, to unify everybody behind DirectX.
Right.
Even now, though, I mean, you look at. I mean, think about the entirety. If you're making a game, think about having that game be compatible with the entirety of the PCs in the entire world, from Intel integrated all the way down to
by using DirectX.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, of course, I guess one argument for moving away from DirectX, and of course why AMD is arguing for Mantle is, it's closer to the metal. You get what the fuck.
Sorry, I went to our website and there was an ad playing.
So it's closer to the metal. It gives you basically more performance, right? Because it's not as abstracted going through DirectX, blah blah blah, more performance. But at the same time, you also don't have to code for everybody's different pieces of hardware. But since we're down to basically 3 different graphics vendors, NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel, maybe we can actually get back to the developers actually just coding for the hardware specifically rather than having to go through DirectX.
It seems like one of those things where the market can determine what's going to happen. We'll vote with our dollars, assuming that they don't just completely drop the ball on the marketing.
think AMD is making a lot of. It seems like they're making a lot of the right decisions. They're definitely making a major push, and they still have a lot of weak points. Nvidia doesn't leave a lot of areas to be exploited. If you're like in a war with someone, you have to exploit their weak spots. And it's like Nvidia doesn't really have. I mean, they're pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, although to be honest, AMD, it may, of course, a lot of people thought, well, there was no reason for NVIDIA to be in the consoles. They played the console thing before. There's really no money in it. But that's clearly helped AMD. So I guess the question is, was it a mistake for NVIDIA to stay out of consoles this time?
Well,
they might not have had a choice this time.
Yeah, you make it sound like it's their choice. I mean,
well,
we don't. Nobody knows why they didn't get those contracts. Everyone assumes it's because their Tegra wasn't up to snuff.
It seems as though AMD had a more complete, what they call end-to-end solution.
Sure, because they have a x86 core, right? They have cores.
Yeah, they have integration with the the CPU and the GPU.
So I mean, in some ways, you could say, well, was it a mistake for NVIDIA not to pursue having an x86 core years and years ago?
Well, yeah, but you're talking, I mean,
clearly, I'm going to guess that Sony, Microsoft said, hey, one-stop shop, we get graphics, we get everything. They've got all the intellectual property, everything. We just go to one vendor.
Yeah, it's interesting from our point of view, since we're all about discrete graphics, and in that world, NVIDIA has the majority. To see AMD just swipe, I mean, we talked about it before. It's pretty impressive. So whether or not that will, that's what we've been wondering for a long time is how is this going to? Are they going to somehow leverage this? Is this going to translate to the PC somehow? Is it going to change the PC market? So I guess that's still unclear. But the Mantle stuff is clearly something that's very, very similar.
Right, and of course we don't know if Sony's going to adopt Mantle. Do we know?
They've been pretty
Nobody
tight
knows.
about how,
So
how their software works.
It's possible Mantle could be a PC only API. I mean, that will be with any support, right?
Yeah, they're saying that NVIDIA is saying that Mantle allows for 9 times more draw calls, and it's they also said that it would just be they said it's not even they said it's like ridiculous. They said a 290X would ridicule a Titan.
Yeah, that's the exact word they used.
So I mean, it's whether or not that's this is it's not quite enough to make it it's not like back when Glide came out with the 3D effects where you just had to have as one card, because we've got a pretty good option with NVIDIA now too. I don't think it's a must buy, but it's they're certainly adding things into that column of the or people are just going to keep their eye on it.
Right, maybe. Well, like True Audio, we didn't even get into that, but there's actually a new audio DSPs integrated into the new cards.
We talked about that a little bit in the last podcast.
Did
so
we?
Yeah, that's another new thing that NVIDIA AMD came out with that no one knew they were even working on. It's something we haven't really thought about in a long time either.
Right. It's actually quite interesting, and for people who don't understand, did you guys get into the nitty-gritty of it last time?
Not really.
So you're not going to, for people who think you're going to be plugging your speakers directly into your video card, you will not be doing that. You'll still be plugging, if you're running analog, of course, directly into your motherboard or even your sound card.
So let's go back one step, which is in case people don't know, the R9 290. There's two cards that have that name on them, 290X 290, and then I believe the R7 260X will all have what's called True Audio, which is a audio DSP that's built into the GPU itself.
Right. And it's and the reasons it's only in those cards, I'm going to guess it's pretty clear those are those are the new dies, right? So this is actually integrated directly into the dies. This is not something down in the PCB. Some of the other cards are sort of repurposed previous generation parts.
Right.
Right. So those, in fact, I guess those are the only cards you're not going to have crossfire bridges on either.
The only cards that don't have crossfire bridges are the 290s.
Right. And the 270, I guess, probably doesn't. No, the R7 probably doesn't have one anyway.
Yeah, hard to say.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to guess those. I mean, these dies are probably all share the same. They're all basically the new die, whereas you have the older parts.
But basically, True Audio would replace your sound card. Is that
well, sort of. I mean, you could. The cool thing is, so they basically are intercepting the audio before it goes out to your sound card or to your USB headphones. They give developers a bunch of different options. There's a bunch of different libraries that the developers can use if they want to do very, very advanced audio. There's a ton of cool stuff they demoed. I can't remember the exact name of it, but they, instead of the old HRTFs, it's actually based on brain. How your brain reacts to audio.
Okay.
But the cool thing is, again, so the audio would basically go. Does the 270 have a crossfire bridge?
It does.
Oh, interesting. Are you sure that's the right one? Does that board actually have true audio?
It might be the 260X.
Yeah, that's actually the Bonnier, previously known as 7790 card.
Right. That one doesn't have true audio.
Yes, it does.
Let's
R7 260 totally does, dude.
I think the 7790 has like the silicon and the circuitry for it, but it's like been disabled. I could be wrong.
I forget. Yeah, R7 260X have the
right. Yeah, it's the 139. It's the little guy. So only the really high-end flagship cards and the 139 quote unquote mainstream.
right. But that actually has a crossfire bridge on it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
I'm pretty sure
I don't believe it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I ran this is the Bonnier, formerly 7790, and I ran 2 of those in our tested feature.
See, I don't know. We'll see. I don't see why they would integrate the true audio into that die but not do the other cards. It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, the cool thing is, for people who don't know the ancient history, when Microsoft came out with Vista, they got fed up with all the problems people were having with audio cards. Of course, everybody blames this on Creative, but and I'm sure Creative, to defend Creative, Vista wasn't exactly great with drivers, right? So a lot of people started having problems with, and of course, this is actually XP too, so I guess that goes back to Creative. But anyway, Microsoft's always said, like, look, we've got a lot of these blue screens. A huge amount of these go all the way back to hardware accelerated audio. You guys are causing us a lot of support problems. You basically, accelerated audio is what is making Windows seem like an unstable operating system. So with Vista, they abstracted it so that you basically could no longer access the sound card directly. And, Direct Sound 3D pretty much went away for the most part. And it really hasn't been the same since then. EAX and 5 wasn't really supported unless you use one OpenAL, if I remember right. So this kind of gets around it because the audio is going from the video card. And I had a Q&A with one of the audio guys at AMD, and I unfortunately can't remember it because it's been a really long weekend. But basically, the audio goes straight from the video card, out to this interface they have, which can be pushed out in any library, and then it gets pushed on from there onto your USB headphones or your onboard motherboard or even a discrete card. So you honestly could run a Creative Sound Sound Blaster, right? Any Recon, whatever, X-Fi. Run games that don't support true audio on using all the special magical effects on your discrete sound card. And then for games that are true audio, switch off all your stuff on your sound card so you don't want it basically double processed, and listen, get your true audio support out of your discrete card and using true audio.
So here I looked up the confirm. It'll be on 290, 290X, and R7 260X. So super high end and the
right, super low. 260X.
No, actually it's not super low. There's a 250 and a 240.
Right.
This is actually mid range.
So I mean, that to me that's interesting because what I really assumed was you basically have your brand new die, right? Your Hawaii whatever parts. They have the integrated DSPs in them, and then they also put them in the lower end part because that probably is a salvage part on the lower end. If they actually could have integrated this stuff into all of their new cards, why not do it? Because really, if you're trying to get developers to support this stuff, you can't have it on this 0.05% of graphics cards out there.
No, you're actually incorrect because the R7 260X, which is that 139 card, that's
right.
94% of the entire graphics market. And I'm not. Yeah, obviously you're
right,
you're
but
correct.
still,
you're correct in terms of installed card. Right now it's 0.
Right.
Although the 7790 is. Well, I guess it's not gonna work for those. They must have just turned it off on that one. We didn't even know it was there when they sent it to us, of course. But
Right.
yeah, they're targeting the really high end, and then the really the majority of the market. With their
right, but why not integrate this new functionality into all the cards, especially when you're trying to get people to adopt it?
Well, they're just using because they have to redo their entire manufacturing process.
Yeah, they'd have to do R&D on all the other 2 tiers.
Right.
Yeah.
So in other words, those are. So if I understand this, you basically have new chip, old chip.
Right. So they were only able to add this true audio to new silicon, and
Right.
the last thing they made was a 7790, the Bonnier, which they made. That was our last real launch we had of new silicon. So they threw it into that at the last minute probably, and then they were also able to put it into the new 290s. So that's all they could do.
Right. But the end result is very advanced audio is going to be back. It'll be exciting again. They're saying, they will eventually be able to leverage the power of the GPU to do all kinds of crazy calculations we haven't seen since the audio wars of the 1990s.
There's some, if you look up the Astound Sound audios on YouTube, I mean, it is and it's only through YouTube, so it's not even as good, I would imagine, as you could actually get through a game, but it is incredible.
Yeah, we used to have positional 3D
Right.
accelerated audio like 10 years ago, and now it's like we're coming back to that.
Well, we moved it all to the CPU, and then so supposedly the CPUs would just have cores sitting around doing nothing. So I think a lot of people are confused as to why.
Yeah.
People are confused about that.
But there are AMD's arguing that it's like, no, actually that's not true. In fact, audio gets like the audio budget in a game is like, less than 10% if you're lucky.
And apparently it uses a lot of pre-recorded tracks and effects.
Which I agree with, yes.
Whereas true audio is apparently more dynamic.
True audio would be so awesome in like Battlefield 4.
Well, yeah, I mean, think back. Think of, like the classic game for me is Battlefield 2 with EAX5. I mean, that was probably one of the best implementations of EAX5 ever, and really, frankly, I honestly think it sounded better than Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 3 anyway, because it really didn't.
Because of the positional effects?
Well, it wasn't just positional, but you had occlusion. So if you were inside a building and there was a tank outside, it really did actually sound like the tank was far away. Or if the tank was across the map and it fired a shell at you, it was, they didn't just lower the volume, but you'd hear like a Doppler shift as the round went over your head or something, and it was really quite advanced. And if you were, I remember with Battlefield 2, if you were running it along, and it would sound different if you look down at the ground, because ideally, I guess you're sort of changing where you're hearing from. But if you kind of looked straight down, and you were running along, things would sound different than they would if you were pointing your head at the horizon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Battlefield 4. The audio we've seen so far seems pretty awesome. But we're not going to translate.
All right, we're not going to go there yet.
We're not going to go there yet either. Let's talk about G-Sync. So that's actually AMD. So yeah, actually, by the time you read this, we will have published our 290X review, or at least not our review, but our thoughts about it. Just to circle back on what they have that's new. The mantle thing, we don't have any opinion on that yet. We haven't seen it. Sounds cool. True audio, basically exactly the same. All we have is 290X for benchmarks compared to GTX 780. We just got a 4K panel today. The day we're recording this podcast is Monday. We just got the panel like an hour ago. So we just got it set up. We haven't actually run any tests yet. But I can tell you that all these people, and I know, so AMD's been pushing that it's faster than the 780 in 4K. And NVIDIA's pushing 4K. They just showed off at their event in Montreal. They showed off 3 4K monitors.
Running a single video card?
Well, no, I think I didn't look at the setup, but I'm sure it was like 3 780s or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Probably even more than that. I'm sure it's probably multiple Titans. Like that is ridiculous.
I'm sure it's a 4-way Titan setup.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. But we run everything here completely maxed out in our settings. So in our test, I just did a couple tests before we came into the podcast room. It was 290X at 4K with everything cranked up in 4XA. It's not.
It was moving along at like 15 to 20 frames per second.
It's not good.
We do that as a worst case scenario, not just for kicks.
Yeah, but it is definitely, before you had Nvidia with this Titan and GTX 780. The GK 110 was a die that I don't think. I mean, people sort of expected it, but whether or not, and I think the rumor is that Nvidia kind of was holding it close to its vest, thinking, well, we'll put this out if we really have to, but for now, all we need is GK 104, which is about half the size of GK 110. And then I guess the GK 104 was pretty close to their Tahiti cores, and for whatever reason, like nobody knows why. We speculated last year that Nvidia would not release GK 110 because it was double the size. It seemed like a little bit excessive to go from here to there. But they did release GK 110, and then AMD seemingly had no answer for that. So, yes, their answer is Hawaii.
Yeah, AMD's answer, I guess, would have been they referenced HD 7990, but they didn't release that until a few months ago.
Well, yeah, but that's still not going to compete with a single. They didn't have any answer for a single big die GPU.
Right.
So they AMD released, or NVIDIA released Titan in this year, like in February. Then they released 780 a couple months later. And we weren't sure if AMD had anything to if they could even respond. So they have responded with Hawaii. Their test that had a lot of conversations with them. They said that they think it's in their test show it's faster than 780 in every test, or at least most of their tests is certainly competitive. I can share some benchmark numbers we have here. These are all run at 2560 by 1600. This is at 4xAA, everything completely maxed out. Just to give you an example of it. So let's see here. So we have it down. We have it as being not quite as fast as a Titan, but faster than a 780 in some. It's a mix. It's about half our benchmarks is faster than 780, and the other half it's not quite as fast. But the two are very, very close. So just to give you an example, in Unigine Heaven 4, the GTX 780 does 32 frames a second, and the 290X does 30 frames a second. Titan does 36. One more example is, all right, so here Crysis 3, we have, they're all really close. Crysis 3, we have the GTX 780 at 25 frames a second, and the 290X at 28 frames a second. So Titan's at 31. Last one we'll go over is, let's do Tomb Raider. We'll do Tomb Raider and Far Cry 3, just because Tomb Raider's an AMD game. So Tomb Raider, it's definitely very fast. The GTX 780 is at 20 frames a second. The 290X is at 24 frames a second. And Titan's at 26. So they're all really close. And the AMD has definitely basically erased any sort of advantage that NVIDIA might have had here. So, and the last one we'll do is, I did Tomb Raider, right? So to do Far Cry 3, I have 36 frames for GTX 780, 31 frames for the 290X, and 41 frames for Titan.
And are they talking about prices yet?
So pricing we have, this is going to get really interesting. So we do have pricing, and you will know what it is by the time this comes out, so it probably won't be that big of a surprise. But we have pricing for the 290X at $550, which, when this card first appeared online, it was priced at around $700. But that was a weird translation thing.
You mean rumors?
It was
rumors.
like
no, it showed up on Newegg.
It was $729. That was sort of the price that was hidden, buried in the HTML, but nobody was 100% sure what that was referring to.
Yeah, I think it was a pre-order on Newegg, and when you looked at the page source, it said $729.
Do you think they did that intentionally?
It's hard. Some of these maneuvers, it's hard to say. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I don't
Well,
think
that's for people who don't know. How does that compare to NVIDIA parts?
So NVIDIA GTX 780 is $650.
However,
and and the Titan is $1,000. And like a month ago, when the AMD guy was talking at Forbes, he said, "Yeah, our new R9 is going to be really good, but we don't think we need to compete with GK110. Like, we don't need to be at $1,000, nor do we need to build a die that big. Like, we're definitely not up there. We're not going to be up there." So it's like, okay, so you're not. All right, so then how close to 650 are we going to be here? And are they going to, no one knew if it would be as fast or just as fast or close or blah blah. So now based on what AMD's showed us and what we've seen here, it's as fast. I wouldn't say it's definitely faster because it's not across the board, nor is it all the way slower. It's just like it matches it, right?
Yeah. And although the 780 is $650 today on, Monday, October 21st, they're also coming out with the 780 Ti, and so they might debut that at $650 and bump the regular 780 down. Right.
So complicating all this, so then is the fact that NVIDIA just launched. They didn't even launch. They just brandished a video card at their event in Montreal that says 780 Ti on it, and they were like, "Here it is, no pricing, no specs."
Coming out.
They're just trying to mess with AMD right now.
2 or 3 weeks. I think
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So they don't know what AMD's pricing is going to be. They're waiting to see what that pricing is going to be. This is the reason why AMD didn't even tell us its pricing was. They're waiting. So they're waiting to see what NVIDIA released at this press event. So like this has just been this back and forth.
We found out about the price for the 200AX like an hour ago.
Yeah.
If that. So they've been keeping their cards pretty close.
And we thought it'd be $600. So we're $550 price is going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I was guessing 600 or 650 around where the 780 was.
Yeah, they're going to be they're sticking it pretty hard to NVIDIA right now.
And NVIDIA hasn't cut the price of the 780 yet.
Not yet. And they've said that they're not going to, but we'll see. The 780, we'll see. But let's get on to that's the price. Let's talk about G-Sync. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it, Tom?
You might know more about than I do.
All right. So NVIDIA held this press event, and they you never. It's funny. It's funny to see. It's cool to see what these companies have been working on for a couple of years because we never, you never really know. And other than the new hardware and things like that on the roadmap, you just never know. Things like True Audio from AMD, out of the blue.
Yeah, all we knew is that they wanted us to come to an event in Montreal where they were going to talk about hardware stuff, but they weren't really specifying products or even product categories.
Right. So they talked about this streaming technology. They talked about their Shield. They mentioned a new holiday gaming bundle. It's kind of, they mentioned Shadow Play, which is I've been asking them about this for a couple weeks now because I had not forgotten about this and I wanted to follow up. So Shadow Play is coming out soon. That's going to be, they promised this with their Kepler cards earlier this summer. It lets you basically record everything that you're doing when you're playing. It just records right behind you for about 5 minutes or so. I think you can customize it. So it helps you save that whenever you're just playing a game that's pretty boring, something amazing happens, you will have saved it.
Like baseball.
Right. So anyways, that's coming out pretty soon. That's for people who have Kepler. But the coolest thing is this technology called G-Sync. Now, people are already getting pissed off at Nvidia because this is you have to go out and buy a new monitor to get this.
Yeah, that's always tough.
Do you think it'd be possible to get a separate module that you can plug into your monitor? Is that
Well, supposedly you can.
Supposedly they're designing it that way, right?
So G-Sync is basically a device. It's basically it's a circuit board that becomes part of your monitor, either by you installing it or by you buying one that has one.
Okay.
It's a monitor that basically coordinates with the GPU to basically sync up on. It basically syncs the refresh rate to the render rate of the card.
Rather than the refresh rate of the monitor.
Right. So right now, the way it works now is that your monitor refreshes on its own refreshes on its own rate, independent of whatever you're doing.
Yeah. And 99% of the time, it's locked at 60 hertz.
Right.
Sometimes 120 if you have more money.
Right. And then meanwhile, you have your video card doing rendering, sending frames at a completely wildly fluctuating interval. And you could get, I don't even think, I think that I had a couple people tweet me saying, I haven't seen tearing in years. And it's I think you do see it. You can't even see it anymore.
Or they have VSync enabled, and it's always at 60.
Yeah, yeah, it's possible. If you enabled VSync, then you would theoretically get around it, but that also caps your frame rate.
Yeah.
So a lot of gamers, myself included, we never enable VSync.
I'm a VSyncer. So.
God.
Yeah.
First, Gordon was a Canon shooter.
Gordon has.
Hey, you know what? But it runs at 60. But the thing is, my system, just constant 60. I have no problems with it staying at 60. I don't need.
He basically has a Cray at home, probably.
So VSync is just one of those things where, so VSync is supposed to eliminate that, but not a lot of people want to run higher than that. So, anyways, G-Sync is basically it syncs up the monitor's refresh rate. It basically matches it to their GPU's rendering interval. So theoretically speaking, it should be perfectly smooth at all times. You will never even notice frames dropping. You won't notice any tearing at all. You won't. I mean, it's actually really hard to watch on YouTube. You really can't see it on YouTube.
Right.
But on stage they had Mark Rain from Epic Games. They had John Carmack, and the guy from DICE. The lead, whoever the guy is at DICE. I mean, obviously DICE is pretty big. They're not on a first name basis yet. Yeah. But all three of them said that, or Mark Rain said it was the biggest thing he's seen since we moved from shitty monitors to HD monitors. He said it was huge. And I think John Carmack said he wants to put it on the Oculus Rift. They both said it was incredible.
Cool.
Yeah, but I mean, so how does this work with?
Well, it requires NVIDIA GTX. So
you need to have a Kepler,
better, I think.
Yeah, GTX 650 Ti boost or higher.
Okay.
And a G-Sync enabled monitor. So far, BenQ, Philips. I'm going to forget one manufacturer, and ASUS. So I know ASUS is in there. I know ASUS, BenQ, and Philips.
Yeah, they actually just announced the monitor today.
Yeah, so they're going to be coming out with new G-Sync enabled monitors that you have to buy. If you have a Kepler card and you plan, you would basically hook it up and then you would turn it on and your mind would be blown. Just like when you first hooked up 144 megahertz or something like that. It's pretty incredible watching it.
What? How do they handle the signaling? Is it actually reading across DisplayPort DVI, or do you actually have to sync it through USB or something? How are they communicating this? Or is the monitor?
ASUS, ViewSonic, Philips, and BenQ.
So how does it sync up with the video card? Are they just reading the inputs from the video card?
It says it gives the GPU the power to control when the monitor scans for new frames.
I wonder if they're doing this cross.
This ensures that the monitor the display will always refresh. It will refresh exactly in time with when the frames are being sent.
And unfortunately I missed all of this. I wasn't in Montreal, but I'd love to know how they actually talk to the model to let them know this. And of course, the real question is, what if I'm running AMD or Intel?
Yeah, that
Well,
sounds
yeah,
scary.
then
Well, I
you
guess if
don't get
I'm running Intel, I'm not playing games. But you
You
know,
don't get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like if you want Mantle or True Audio, you have to go AMD. Although I think Mantle is technically capable of working with NVIDIA cards, if NVIDIA wanted it to or something.
no way.
Wow.
Because it's designed for the actual metal underneath it. They're not gonna. You'd use NV API, and I guess, in fact, I was reading a story earlier. The Battlefield guys, Frostbite engine will support NV API as well. So
Yeah, I saw some guys. I saw a guy from who is it from? I mean, basically, I know that NVIDIA is working really hard to get the OpenGL extensions and whatnot to work just as well as Mantle. So
I got to say, I mean, one of the problems, I think G-Sync sounds really cool, and I guess the demos are astounding, but people don't like to buy new monitors. Is it? I
Yeah.
mean, that's like one of the last things that you
Hope-
ever upgrade.
Hopefully you can buy the module separately and plug that in.
Well, but it'll only be for monitors that support it, right?
you could theoretically, yeah. Supposedly you'll be able to buy this little G-Sync module separately for like $100 or whatever. But I mean,
But it's only for
yeah,
monitors that support G-Sync.
I don't think. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to just to add it on to whatever monitor you have at
Right.
home. I mean, that's not gonna. Yeah.
But I mean, again, like there's some things that people won't change: their case, the keyboard, their mouse, and monitor.
Yeah.
Right.
I just changed my mouse. Actually, it was a pretty frustrating period of my life where I had to let go of my MX518. But
Really?
anyways, so yeah, but it sounds it's a cool thing. It's one of those areas that it's kind of like audio. What AMD took off that we've just sort of ignored for a long time. This whole tearing thing, we just ignored it because we figured,
There's nothing you can do.
what are
right?
you gonna do?
It sounds pretty clever. Although, what the hell are people going to do in the future? It's like, okay, I want physics. Oh, you
Yeah.
got to do this.
And-
All right, what if I want Mantle? Okay, you got to do this.
And you have people dropping
that's-
like
I want
500,
Intel's QuickSync. Yeah, you got to do
$600,
that.
$750 on a 2560 monitor. They're not going to want to buy another one just to have this.
That's what's interesting is the market. When AMD came out with Mantle and True Audio and whatnot, people were like, huh, this is kind of going in a more proprietary, direction and kind of making people choose sides, this and that. So now that Nvidia's come out with all this other technology, they're kind of doing the same thing too. So I mean, it's sort of, I mean, that's I don't see the. I mean, I know people want to have. I want to be able to have Mantle on my Nvidia card and then G-Sync on my AMD card and whatnot. But that's just not really. The market is going to be like it is with any other product. You sort of choose the brand you want based on the features that it offers.
Yeah.
But didn't you think one of the appeals of Mantle was like, oh well, this is not just their own little private API that everybody floats around. This is something people will support because Sony and Microsoft can use in their consoles. And of course, Microsoft said, no, we're not using this.
No one knows what Sony is using so far, and
I know,
the
but
things
everybody
that
makes the assumption they're going to.
right. And the things that I've read said that. Oh, wait, just to go back to V-Sync real quick. I found G-Sync. I found the quote from Mark Rain. He said that Mark Rain is he's the creator of Unreal Engine. He called G-Sync, quote, the biggest leap forward in gaming monitors since we went from standard def to high def. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
So, but-
Although, admittedly,
We do know that
gaming monitors really don't move very fast.
So here we go. This is the legendary John Carmack, architect of id Software's engines from Similarix. He said, "What quote? Once you play a G-Sync capable monitor, you'll never go back." That's,
So I guess-
that's pretty good.
I think
that's pretty definitive.
I
He
think
also said Maximum PC Magazine is definitely the best. No, I'm kidding.
You can say, yeah. No, but actually, I think really the appeal to me is not like, oh, I'm running 130 frames a second and I'm not going to see tearing. It seems like what it really helps is you're dropping down to 45 frames a second or 30 frames a second, which you start to really notice at 30 frames a second.
That's the
It's-
biggest thing is you
right?
won't notice that.
It's just you won't bug you as much. I'm sure it will.
Theoretically
bug you.
speaking, you won't notice it.
I-
Since the refresh rate will be in line with the rendering rate, you shouldn't even notice it.
Okay, so that's actually pretty compelling.
Yeah.
But how do I get this with True Audio and Mantle?
I
Yeah.
guess your SOL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, G-Sync with True Audio and Mantle. Oh my
And
God,
physics.
BF4. Holy shit.
We should just make a card. We should start working on it now. I'm going to announce it right now. It goes into any available PCIe 3.0 slot. It's a full by 16 card, and it supports QuickSync, Mantle, physics, G-Sync. What else does it support?
DirectX.
TressFX.
OpenGL.
TressFX.
Oh,
It
it's kinda
enables
like-
all that stuff.
It's kind of like it's kind of like the John Phillips. What's it called? That huge video card he put in glitch that one time. I forget the name of it.
I forget. Bitch and Fast.
Bitch and Fast 3D 2000.
Yeah, but it's like that, except it's not for video. It's just for all the extra stuff that is proprietary.
Speaking of AMD, now this is a question that I actually asked Gordon today in our office. They've announced all this tons of GPU news. Are they doing anything on the CPU side at all?
Not that I know of. In fact, I have specifically asked for clarification on AM3 Plus's future, because we keep seeing rumor stories that now this is it. It's over for AM3 Plus, right?
Rumors that Steamroller is going to be on the FM
Right.
thing, FM3, I guess.
Right, and we'll come to AM3 Plus. I don't know. It ain't looking good, right?
There were previous rumors that the FX series, which is the high performance quote unquote, I don't know, a category of AMD's was going to basically just disappear. So they haven't upgraded the chipset in a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, they never really did step. They're not like Intel. It's like, hey, it's Tuesday. You got the new Intel chipset? Oh, I bought mine on Sunday. It's already outdated.
Yeah,
AMD's never been like that. They really can't push people, like that.
Right.
AM3's been around for a long time.
And their current chips are what, 32 nanometer?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
32.
honestly,
So there are, and Intel's firing up the like 14 nanometer fab right now.
They're 20,
So-
they're 22 right
pretty
now
much.
with Haswell, I think.
It's not looking pretty, but I think the thing is, people have to remember, everybody said this about AMD, 4 months ago, 3 months ago. Again, people asking the podcast, is like, what's AMD going to do? They're gone, right? Now, of course, everybody's like, everybody's excited about AMD now.
The question is now, how is NVIDIA going to respond to this?
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's not if you're in the AMD world with your CPU and you're looking to upgrade and you're waiting to hear if they're going to come out with some sort of new chipset or new CPU or something like that, I would not
Don't
hold my
your
breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're playing it very, very close to their vest, and I think it is probably part of managing expectations. I mean, really, because everybody assumes all the rumor stories are correct and there will be no sort of enthusiast-focused part. If they actually did, like, just, hey, we're announcing this, people would be like, ah.
They were very tight-lipped about FX when that was getting up to the release date with the 8150 and the 6120, I think it was.
Well, even the new
6100.
R7, R9 parts, they kept it really, really super secret, right?
So they could be working like full steam ahead on Steamroller right now.
They change things at the last minute. They change these things all the time at the last possible second.
On the GPU side.
GPU side.
I will say this. This is from years of talking to vendors. Like when they go out and they talk to Intel and AMD CPU side, they go like, yeah, these guys, like, they've got these roadmaps and they follow them, right? And you know what's coming down the road 18 months later. But they say, and this is a classic criticism of NVIDIA and ATI. It's like, and of course, which AMD bought, but and I've heard this from vendors before. Many people said it's like they make this stuff up like a week before. They just like make it up. Like, oh, we changed plans. It's like, what? You told me what was happening a month ago. No, that's all different now. I almost wonder if it's part of a disinformation campaign that they pull, or whether they really do just like
false flag operation,
or they really do just kind of like drive all over the map like that. They can't really follow roadmaps.
When I worked for a large company that did stuff like that, I mean, I don't think we never knew. I mean, and I'm sure it's
on graphic side, you mean?
I don't mean graphic side. I just mean there was times where stuff like that would happen, where there'd be last minute changes to these majorly things that have been in the works for a long time, and I don't think we ever knew why.
Well, but like now, I mean, for example, right, Broadwell, right? The 14 nanometer version, 14 nanometer chip come from Intel. It's delayed from, gosh, when was it supposed to happen?
So now we're going to
third quarter to first quarter, right?
Right. So now we're going to we're transitioning into our Intel CPU discussion, leading off with the fact that its upcoming chipset Broadwell has been confirmed by Intel to be delayed. Right,
and they're saying yield problems, and it's delayed, I think 1 quarter. So, of course, Intel is saying it's not a big deal. We're not yield, for people who don't know, is how many good chips are getting off of the fab. They like to sell get more products that they can sell rather than they have to throw away. So they're not happy with what they're getting right now.
Should we assume that the
This is 14 nanometer?
14 nanometer Broadwell. Yeah.
should we assume that the defects in manufacturing were related to the die shrink? Is that, you think that's what the main?
I don't. Who knows? I'm sure it is related to the die shrink, and but
Everyone, just so everyone knows, everyone's about to. So right now, Intel is at 22 nanometer, which
Right.
is. I mean, I think everyone else is at 28 still. I know both the current Nvidia GPUs. I'm not sure about the Samsung stuff. I know that the Apple's A7, those are all 28 nanometer.
Right.
So everything right now is at 28. Intel's at 22. So the jump from there to 14 is like
Huge.
yeah. I mean, it's something that only Intel can do. I mean, they are truly the masters of the fab, right? They can pull off incredible things with their fabs that nobody else can.
Yeah,
They own so many.
They own all their own fabs, so they can just experiment.
Right.
And
So
they
they
have the
are.
money to do it.
But they are saying, yes, they are confirming that Broadwell is delayed. And if impact for desktop users, probably not a big deal because Broadwell was always intended for tablets and notebooks and all-in-ones, very small form factor, thin form factor things. We don't get our Magic until Skylake, I think, till 2015. I forget.
Is it really that far off?
Yeah,
Wow.
we got a long wait. So
Yeah, it's the first time this has happened with Intel though in a long time, where they've actually had run into a yield problem during the fabrication process and had to publicly just tell everyone that they're delaying stuff.
right. And although and I think the really bad news is if they come out and said, oh. Ivy G or Haswell E is delayed, 3 months. People will be like, who cares? PC's dead anyway, right? But, Broadwell is, again, part of their continuing war with ARM. So a delay in Broadwell really is pretty painful rather than a delay with the desktop processor, which they have no competition. They really have to fight with ARM, and Broadwell is definitely another way they could continue to encroach on ARM.
Well, they also have the new Atom CPU, right?
Right.
And the Nano thing.
Right. Bay Trail. Or in fact, we're already seeing the first Bay Trail tablets. We haven't talked about any mobile stuff, but there's, I don't know, are they mobile? But so the first Windows 8 8.1 tablets using the Bay Trail Atom chip are already on the market now. $300. They look okay. I think we have one.
Yeah, you said something.
Transformer.
You said performance wasn't quite as good.
Well, I mean, it's twice as what it's more than twice the performance of Atom, which of course was always like horrible. I had an old Atom notebook that I loaded Windows 8 on just to see if I could do it, and I did it. And I still can't believe it. I mean, Windows 8's pretty fast, but it's just slow. Like, I swear to God, that chip was like negative clock speed, the original Atom. So it's just, this is the slowest things ever.
Huh.
So, but Bay Trail is definitely a lot faster. Again, I think it's like a Core i7 almost, or a Core i2 or Core i1 in a way. It's very light. And it probably will compete pretty well with the fastest ARMs out there, honestly.
Yeah, Intel has like a messaging and like a branding problem too. Just I feel like they're trying to operate in a brand new space that no one knows. What I mean, people obviously know who Intel is, but it's weird to see them faltering in this category.
Well, I mean, it's tough. They're going in a place that they've never really wanted to be in. They've ignored it for a long time, and now they're trying to get in a place where you've got some real big players. You've got real money, real big players. You've got Apple, you've got Samsung, all making these ARM chips.
Smaller margins.
Yeah, no margins practically, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and Intel is really historically has been about large margins.
There is some arguments like, does Intel want to play in this place where these guys are making like practically nothing off selling these ARM chips? They're selling 1 billion of them, but at the same time, it's like, man, it's like talk about no margin.
You gotta sell loads and loads of it to make it up in volume.
Right.
Speaking of mobile, I actually had to use Windows 8 on a laptop for the first time in the real world. When I was gone, I went on vacation. I took a Windows 8 laptop from the office here. It wasn't too bad, but I couldn't believe it. There's one thing that I didn't know about Windows 8 mobile, at least on a laptop, is when it comes to update itself, to restart itself, it restarts itself no matter what.
Really?
There's no way to postpone it restarting.
Well, it tells you ahead of time. It says this.
It tells
this
you ahead of
will
time.
72 hours.
It tells you ahead of time, and they kept counting down. They kept saying 8 hours from now, I'm gonna restart, and I was like, yeah, because I was like, when it gets down to it, when we get down to 0 hour, I will have the option, I'm sure, to tell it to just back off, right?
This is why I always instruct Windows to never install updates automatically. I instruct it to inform me that updates are available, then I download them and install them on my own schedule. It seems to work out better.
Well, I have it download them, but tell well at least in the past I always had download them and tell me when they're ready to be download them. Let me know when they're ready to be installed.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, once in a while you just kind of get careless. You click OK, install, and then you don't know if a reboot is required or not. But in Windows 8, it literally was sitting there and saying, "All right, 5 more minutes," and I was like, "Really? Like, you're like you're gonna force me to reboot?"
In Windows 7, you could just postpone it.
You can postpone it, and I didn't believe it, and I was copying files from my CF card onto the hard drive, and I was like, I think I was downloading a file at the same time, and I was just like, I did bullshit. I don't believe it.
Windows
and then next thing you know,
all right, here we go.
Just shuts off. I was like, wow.
It really did it. You were in the middle of a file copy. And
I mean, I was just that's why I copy file. This is not my tip for the week, by the way. But whenever I copy files from a CF card, I never do Control X. Never do a cut.
Never do a move command.
Never. Yeah. Always copy. You never know what could happen.
You just now learned this rule?
No, just saying. So, anyways, that was one little anecdote from using Windows 8. Overall, wasn't too bad. All right, let's talk about this last topic, which is Battlefield 4. Beta just ended. I saw Gordon down in the shit, screaming for backup.
Yeah, which you
Telling
never
us to
got.
go on with
That was a really small map. The beta was a pretty small map too.
Yeah, it was a fun map though.
What'd you think? We all played the beta. Here
I
in the
actually
office.
didn't play it.
Oh right, sad.
I actually, you want to hear my story? I'll tell you.
No, we'll save it for later. We'll talk about it later.
Save it for later.
We'll talk about it later. 'Cause I'm going to talk about that later too.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Well, we tested Battlefield 4 on a number of different types of systems, number of different types of video cards like FX 8350, Haswell i5, Haswell i7, and Ivy Bridge E, the 4930K, I think it was, overclocked.
Yep.
Because we wanted to see how does the game behave on AMD versus Intel, and how does it behave on...
Actually, it was a 4960X.
Was it? Okay.
There's also talk, too, that, one of the things... I mean...
All right, Tom's still finishing
All
his
right,
mushroom
sorry.
story.
So we wanted to see how...
Wait,
how
mushroom story.
You have to watch Murder by Death, and you can figure it out.
We wanted to see how the game would balance its load across the cores, and how it would handle hyperthreading, if at all, because usually games don't make much use of logical cores. But we found that the game seemed to perform much better on the i5 than the 8350. Now this is technically a beta version of the game. They might optimize it later. But we found that the happy medium appeared to be 6 threads.
Yeah.
You wanted to have at least 6, and preferably 8. But only 4 threads. It seemed to kind of choke.
You're definitely right, because that i5, we played it on both an i5 Haswell, as well as playing an i7, disabling the hyperthreading.
Right.
And it really would. I mean, if you played on a quad-core Haswell, you'd be 100% the whole time the game was running.
Right.
The whole time.
Wow.
I mean, just like... And it would really warm that system up.
We found 6 cores as a happy medium by taking the Ivy Bridge E chip and disabling hyperthreading, because it's a 6-core chip, so it's 12 threads with hyperthreading, 6 threads without. And HD 7990 performed quite well. That seems to be a good card for the money. It's like you can get it for like $550, $600.
If you can still find them.
Right.
I bet they're all sold out everywhere.
It appears as though AMD is pretty much discontinuing manufacturing the 7000 series, so grab them while they're hot.
Yeah,
so
they sent us a message about those 7000 series cards and said that they expect them to be mostly completely unable to be acquired by December.
Wow. But Battlefield 4. So although I think the really eye-opening problem we had was on the 8350, right? Which is a, quote-unquote 8-core processor. AMD's fastest chip.
I couldn't get it to 60 frames per second. Now we were running all settings maxed out, but on the Intel i5 it would never go below 60, whereas on the 8350 same resolution, same settings, couldn't get it up to 60.
And a lot of lag spikes.
And this is with an HD 7990.
Yeah.
So that was...
again, to be fair, it's a beta. It's a beta,
right.
so
right.
Who knows? But, I mean, honestly, it didn't seem like...
it was not encouraging.
Right, and we were not formally trying to benchmark it. We weren't. Right. There is no benchmark in the beta. But we just real world played the game to see what it would be like. And honestly, I don't think it really agrees with what we're reading out there, because a lot of people are saying you can really get away with a lot less CPU.
Yeah, it was just weird to see such a delta with Battlefield 4, whereas with Battlefield 3, 8350 seemed to be a great CPU.
Oh, plenty.
6300 seemed to be fine.
Battlefield 4 is like the Michael Bay shooter. There's just stuff flying around
There's
all
a
the
lot
time.
going on.
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of
there is
particle
like
effects.
yeah, there's just like if it's not
debris.
shredded paper flying through the sky around you, there's like dust and particles. Like I mean, it just seems like there's just stuff everywhere. It looks really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was definitely it seemed like it killed it, right? Because the particle effects definitely would kill it. You would be looking at the ground and you'd be a solid 60 plus. You'd look up and you'd just have all that crap floating through the sky and it would drop down to 30, 35, 40.
Maybe it's just a floating point thing, and Intel seems to do better there. Generally.
Well, we already know they're more efficient clock for clock, but I
Right.
don't know. I mean it's not great, but I definitely think you need a bigger processor than you expect for Battlefield 4. At least you probably need. I mean, I think you'd be okay with an Ivy Bridge with hyperthreading, but you probably do need the hyperthreading to help.
Yeah, I based on my experience with the beta, I would be more comfortable with an i7 than an i5, and more comfortable with an i5 than an 8350. That's the
Yeah,
bottom
it'll
line.
be interesting to see if people. If we're going to see a lot more people's machines overheat too, because if you're, the classic gaming box, right, was a i5 Ivy Bridge, right, or even a 2600, or an i5 Sandy Bridge, but you play a game and you're never really running all the cores maxed out. But
Right.
so if you start playing on your quad core with no hyperthreading, and the cores are just maxed out at 100%, and you're playing for 3 hours straight,
Pegged.
people are going to start seeing their overclocks fall apart. People are going to start seeing, overheating that they've never seen before, I think.
You can get some headroom back by enabling VSync. It seems to give you back like 10-15% of your available cycles to do other things. But yeah, it was a lot more cycle usage, CPU usage than we're used to seeing.
Right. So make sure your cooling is in order when you buy Battlefield 4 and start
Could be
playing
just a
it.
bug in the engine that they're going to fix in a day one patch. Don't know.
Right, but I don't think so. I mean, although this is a good sign, right? Because
Well, the game hasn't even been released yet.
it has been released, but let's face it, right? The only thing that's been holding back PC gaming for the last years are these piece of shit consoles that are based on like whatever 12-year-old or 50-year-old technology at this point.
Pretty
right?
old.
Low res,
They're based on the Atari
low power.
still.
Atari, they're
Very-
basically
very
2600
low.
cores.
Very low memory pools.
Right. So, if developers really do start taking advantage of all the cores, the Jaguar cores in Xbox and PS4, we really should see, the CPU finally have to get to work for games.
Yeah, for the past like year or two, I've been seeing people buying or building or preparing to build gaming system with 16 gigs of RAM, and I've been telling them there's no game that uses even 8, and they usually never use more than 4. But that might change with the new console generation that uses that pool of 8 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing Battlefield 4.
Yeah.
Our readers are like getting all pissed about it because it's EA game and blah blah blah. And Battlefield itself has screwed people over in the past. I remember when we lost our ability to dolphin dive, and there's been a million different things.
You're not going to talk about the issue we're talking about later. Let's talk about that later.
I'm still irritated about having to use a browser to access the server list.
That is fucking annoying.
I don't care.
Really
I don't care about the browser. What I really don't like is it doesn't save your preferences. It's like, okay, I'm looking for North America servers. This kind of, okay. How come it never? What's the point? It doesn't save it.
And if you want to adjust your video settings for different effects and whatnot, you have to be like in a match. You can't do it from within like some non-in-game setting menu.
Or what I really like. Well, this is getting ahead of ourselves.
Yep.
Or
All
what
right.
else do we need to talk about?
Let's just skip all that. Let's get into our editor picks, and we'll go into Gordon's rant. Actually, let's do this. Let's do one. We have one reader question, editor picks, then we'll do the rant. All right. Here is the question. This is from Ryan Martin. This is to our Maximum PC podcast at gmail.com. Ryan writes in, says, "Hey there, longtime listener, longtime reader since boot.
Right on.
Haven't missed a podcast since 2007. Keep it up. I admire you guys staying with the magazine for as long as you have. Anyways, I'm using a Temjin. This is Silverstone Temjin TJ09. Looking to downsize to a different case. I'd say that my requirements may prevent me from doing so. I want quiet, smaller, but easy to work in with good aesthetics, good build quality, good cable management, and a removable motherboard tray. And he currently has a Temjin TJ09. Zalman 9700 LED, Sapphire 7970, Core i7 3570, Core i5 3570, Sound Blaster, PC power and cooling 1 kilowatt OCZ Vertex.
The removable motherboard tray kind of throws a wrench into it because that's not very common anymore. The one,
Let me read the very end of this
Sure.
real quick, Tom. He says, my main problem is when you start with a TJ09 and a perfectly good 1,000 watt power supply. It's hard to find good hardware that is an actual upgrade, which is why I'm trying to focus on being quiet. I'm not opposed to closed-loop water cooling. But my research has found that most mid-range air coolers can compete with the coolers. I do some overclocking, but I get bored with it quickly, so quiet is still a priority. Basically, what I'm looking for, he writes, is the more mature version of the PC I built 5 years ago.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, a new case could help because I mean, Silverstones are beautiful, but they've never been particularly quiet, right?
Yeah, the only one I can think of with the removable motherboard tray that's been out like recently would be their FT04, which we've actually used recently. But it's kind of a funky case because it uses an inverted upside down design.
It's big
And
too. I thought you went to
I
downsize.
haven't even
And
seen a removable motherboard tray in quite a while.
There's only like there's 2 front fan mounts, technically 3, depending on what size fans you use, and then there's 1 like rear. But there's no top fan mount, there's no bottom fan mount, there's no side fan mounts, and so you're kind of limited on what you want to do with your airflow. It's a nice case though. It costs like $230, so it's not like for the faint of heart. I think it's worth checking out. If a motherboard tray isn't that important to you, you might also want to look at the Fractal design cases, like the XL-R2, which is their full tower, then the X4, the R4, which is the mid tower. Both of those have built-in sound panels all around, and so that'll absorb a lot of noise. And then they have these covers on top of the fan mounts. They call it their Modu vent system, I think. And you can remove those panels to put fans on. And the R2, the XL-R2, the full tower, comes with 3 140 millimeter fans that are designed to be pretty damn quiet. And they're already pre-hooked into a fan controller with 3 settings on it.
Yeah, Tom is well, Tom doesn't cover cases for us, but I know he pays pretty close attention to it. He kind of he's up on it for all
Plus
our
all the
build,
build-its.
all our build stuff too. So
I did the billet section, so I'm working
I
with
brought
it.
this question in so Tom could give us an answer. And based on what I've seen too, the Bit Phoenixes, those are pretty nice.
Yeah, the fractal case.
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
Fractal.
Yeah.
Fractal
Yeah.
design.
Bit
Fractal
Phoenix-
would be a good choice for quiet.
Bit
They're
Phoenix
really
cases
quiet.
some of those are pretty nice too, but definitely the Fractal is good for low noise. Also might want to look at the Corsair 550D, I think it is. That's a mid tower. Also has sound panels.
Corsair has launched so many different cases now.
This is the 330R, or the R330 is another one of theirs. It's more recent. Yeah.
All right, there's your answer, Ryan. Let's quickly do our editor's picks, and then we'll have some time left at the end for Gordon's rant. All right. Editor's picks are something we do on every podcast. Just a quick little thing that we found or discovered that we think is cool. We wanted to share. It's cheap and no big deal. Just something quick and simple, so that you can get some actual. If you don't listen to anything we say in this podcast and come away with any sort of entertainment or information, at least you can walk away with something that's like a good buy or something like that.
Yeah.
So, Tom, why don't you go ahead and start it off?
My editor's choice is a game that actually came out a couple years ago, and the reason I'm picking it now is because they removed some DRM features that it made it either impossible to work properly in your PC or just a pain in the ass because of limited activations. And the game is Batman Arkham City. And it's available on Steam now as a proper Steamworks title, and the only DRM it has is Steam authentication. And they've taken out the DRM junk, and they've added in Steam achievements and Steam trading cards. And they only have the Game of the Year edition now, so you get all the DLC rolled into that, and you can pick it up. Not on sale; it's like $30, but it's frequently on sale for $7.50. So I'd recommend keeping an eye out for the sale on that game. It's good fun if you like a game where you basically run around and beat the shit out of thugs. That's basically what that one's about.
It's kind of like a Batman movie, basically.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and Gordon?
I have a mobile. We haven't talked about mobile here, but I have a mobile
Good call.
recommendation since, we have to have the mobile stuff so people have something to bitch about.
Yeah.
Cell phone,
So-
tablet.
I am recommending a really cool tablet. In fact, I bought it recently. It's pretty happy with the purchase. It's actually the Nexus 7. It's not actually the tablet I have in my hand right here. I bought the new Nexus 7 2013 because I had a gift card to a store, which I'm not going to name, and so I got it for a great price. But I've been very happy with it. It's really, really fast. As far as Android devices, I've not had actually a top of the line Android device in a while, and this thing is very much at the top of the Android world. It's a really good size too, the Nexus 7. But the one thing against it is you definitely need to buy the 32 gig version because the OS has gotten kind of fat. So the 16 gig version.
There's no external memory.
There's no external memory, and if you buy the 16 gig version, you basically have about 10 gigs to play with, which isn't much for a lot of people. So honestly, even 32 gigs is a little tight for me. So,
yeah, but if you want to watch some Blu-ray rips,
yeah. But the screen is, it's a full 1080p screen. It's pretty phenomenal. Makes iPad Mini look like a joke, of course, with that low res screen they have, and it's very fast. But hopefully, Apple will get in the game tomorrow rather than just give up.
Yeah, I actually bought the older 7, and I like it. It's actually really fast too. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
All right, my pick of the week is, I've got a normal pick and then I've got a little mini pick. My normal pick is if you ever need rechargeable batteries. You might even know about these if you're like in the tech world like we are, but I do some picture taking, and I've done a lot of research and a lot of testing with many different types of rechargeable batteries over the course of my life. And the ones that are always been known as being the best are these Sanyo AnyLoops.
Oh yeah.
So in case anyone out there didn't know about these guys, you should check them out. They're actually super affordable too. It's amazing.
You can pick them up on Amazon, I think.
Yeah, they're on Amazon. They come pre-charged, so you can just take them right out of the package and put them right into whatever device you want. Costco has them. You can buy, as an example, I think you can buy 4 packs of 4 of them, 4 AA batteries. 4 AA AnyLoops is $12. They're not super expensive.
And they're recommended because they hold on a charge, or
they just seem to hold their charge the longest.
Okay.
They hold the charge really long. They just seem they're all the other batteries that I had, they would just they would sit around for a while and not be used. They would just drain.
Right. These are, so for people who don't know, AnyLoops are the original low self discharge LSD batteries.
Okay.
So they're pretty phenomenal. You can let them sit in your in the package for 18 months, and it'll only drain down to like whatever 80%. They have a lot of different statistics, and they also have different variations of AnyLoops. Sorry to get in on Josh's here, but
no worries.
But they have the colorful AnyLoops are the newer versions. So there's like older versions and newer versions, but they're all pretty good.
And the capacity stays high over the life of the battery, right?
You mean these guys?
They have these new. In fact, they even have AnyLoop Pros. They've really branched out, but they have more colorful ones. If you've got the older ones, and I have some that are perfectly fine, the original ones, they're still good. But one thing definitely I've found with these things is you don't want to buy your cheap ass NiCad charger that you've had for since 1982. It's better to have a charger that's intelligent, that doesn't charge them too fast and overheat them and pretty much kill these things. It'll fry them. But so don't try to use your cheap ass charger with them.
The batteries that I was showing Gordon a second ago, where I said these things, they have some ones now that are called XX that are like in a black package.
Oh no, those are the porn star ones.
Yeah, it's like they look like a tribal tattoo you would get on your like lower back or whatever. And they're really I don't know the differences between these XX. The ones that
sounds like a
higher capacity, I believe.
Standard AnyLoops are just solid white. Oh yeah, it says right there high capacity.
Yeah, those are like 2400 milliamp. The standard ones are like 1800 something, but
okay.
But the nice thing, again, they really do hold a charge. Definitely pay for a good charger.
All right, so I've got a lead in here for that's my pick. AnyLoops. If you need some rechargeable batteries, check them out. We actually have a new intro coming for Gordon's rant, but we don't have it here today because Clark made it, our intern, and he's not here. So, but I have this little brief. I wish I make this into a longer loop. It'd be awesome. Here it is.
You say we cut the chit chat, a-hole.
Yes, but can you name the movie?
I need to lead that into some sort of longer.
Everybody knows who it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lead that into a longer.
I think I know which one it is.
Who is it?
And now it's time for Gordon Ma-Ung's Rant of the Week.
Well, that's impossible. Well, no shit. It's a fucking movie, for God's sake. Christ. Like Michael fucking Landon. He's gonna have to come in. You'll be in the bathroom. He's gonna try to give you some soap. I don't want any goddamn soap, Michael.
I have no idea what that's about.
The soap. Well, the soap that goes back to our bathroom for people who haven't listened for a long time, right? Our bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait! I know what that's about. That's about like when you go into the bathroom and you're in like a club or something, and it's always in the fucking club for some reason. And there's a guy who stands in the bathroom all day
What kind of
selling
clubs you
you
go
stuff.
into?
Yeah. When are you in a club, Gordon? Come on.
Well, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. I know. It
How
hasn't
do you
been
know
like
that?
since the
Gordon, the club
1980s.
hopper.
What I'm saying though is there's the guy who, or it's also some nice hotels though.
Okay.
You go in there, you've got the guy who's got to stand there all fucking day, selling you the hand soap. Of course, the really bad thing is if you're a cheap fucker, right? Because I don't like to, come on, man. You got to tip everybody, especially when you're in Vegas, right? You go to Vegas, and you got oh, fuck. Don't open the cab door. Now I have to tip you, right?
As soon as they touch your luggage, you're like,
That's
fuck.
shit.
So you're talking about the restrooms where there's no soap in the dispensers, there's no paper towels. You have to pay somebody to use
that
the
guy
stuff
hands you the towel, and you got to tip the guy. It's like,
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
So you know what you should do is you should actually keep your own towels. No problem, I got one right here.
Yeah.
So you should have a towel dispenser for your jacket when you're in the club, and you got the other one, the soap fucking comes out of the other pocket.
One
or
of those
something like that.
sanitizer cloths that comes in a little
Right,
packet, and you rip it
right.
open. You just do it right in front of him too.
But that's where that comes from. Is that guy? And they make you feel uncomfortable because you're in the bathroom. It's like damn, and you gotta tip the guy because he's that's his fucking job. Is to
Bullshit,
handle the
dude. You
bathroom.
don't have to tip anyone like that. No way.
Come
No
on,
way.
the guy's in the fucking bathroom.
Are
He's
you
handing you
a
the towel,
non-tipper?
right?
I wouldn't tip anyone. No. I mean, there's.
You
no.
would not tip the bathroom guy for handing you the towel.
You know what I did? I
These guys
well,
sit in
this
the
is-
bathroom
I,
all day.
I don't want to step on Gordon's rant. Go
No,
ahead.
go. All right, we're gonna hear, and then we can complain about it.
I was at a hotel on vacation. They said you get free breakfast, and then I said, "Oh, cool!" And they gave me a little ticket, and I went to breakfast, put down my ticket, ate my food, and just walked out. I didn't realize till the next day that I should have left a tip for the woman who was coming out to collect the plates and stuff like that.
Shameful.
Yeah.
Oh, that part. Yeah, that's always confusing, because I think we're all trained to okay, if you come and serve me, I'm
This
gonna
is a
tip.
buffet. This is a buffet, by the way.
Yeah,
It's a gray area.
I think
So,
most
yeah,
people
gray
don't
area.
tip on the buffet guys. I mean, it'd be nice
Someone's
to.
picking up your plates and
Put
stuff.
a
and what's
couple
she gonna
bucks on
do?
the table for
she's
the
gonna
for the
work all.
busser.
She's gonna work all day. With all these assholes coming in with free breakfast tickets.
Whoa, so you would tip her, but the guy who fucking has to stand in the bathroom, you would not tip that guy?
No,
Why?
He's got to smell people's
because
shit
the bathroom
all day.
guy's making everyone feel uncomfortable. It's a weird pressure tip. I don't like
He's
it.
got to
Yeah,
hear
but-
people's
but
shit all
come
day.
on, man. You got to do it. I mean,
Go
it's
ahead.
dude, it's a tough job, right? All right, so here.
This
Okay,
pisses me off.
here's what we do. So I don't know what, 2 months ago, Josh and I oh, hey, look, Battlefield 4 Premium just came out. We're like, fuck yeah. We both
We had
no,
pre-ordered-
wait. We pre-ordered, but let me get into this now, because I love Steam,
And he loves Battlefield.
but I very much believe we need competition in the marketplace. I very much support EA's actions with Origin, even though for the most part, fucking Origin is almost always fucking shit up. Every turn you could possibly take, the shit's fucked up, right? This is for people who don't know, Origin is the electronic software distribution for EA, right? So, but I have Battlefield 3 on there. We're like, okay, we're gonna go buy it now. So both Josh and I were like, okay, we're buying it now. We couldn't even fucking buy, Battlefield 4, right? So we're like, it took us half an hour. We're like, we had all the information, and it's like, it's not working. It's like you kept doing it over and over and over again. You couldn't actually buy fucking Battlefield 4, right? But finally, after half an hour, we're able to give them our fucking money, right? Get the game. All right, we got the game. We're set. Battlefield 4, right? So what happens? So it's like the beta starts coming out. Josh sends me a text. He's like, hey, I can't download the beta. And I go to my machine. It's like, yeah, I have the beta. It's starting to pre-download it, right? Everything's working. It's working for me. They must have screwed up your order. Josh goes and talks to tech support, and the guy's like, oh, you didn't buy Battlefield 4.
You bought.
Josh is like, no, look, I got the receipt. It says Battlefield 4 Premium. I bought the game. Coworker, we both bought it. Battlefield 4 Premium, right? It's Battlefield 4 fucking Premium. We bought it. The guy's like, no, you bought the expansion packs. It doesn't come with a game. It's like, why is it fucking called Battlefield 4 Premium then, right? It should be called Battlefield 4 expansion packs, which we would have fucking bought it anyway. But it's like, no, it doesn't. Battlefield 4 Premium doesn't come with the fucking game.
Let me read the chat transcript.
Right.
I pulled up the chat transcript. Chat transcript. Thank you for contacting EA, blah, blah, blah. My name is Mohit. May I assist you? I said, I pre-ordered Battlefield 4, but it's not showing up on my Origin client. He says, I'm sorry to hear that. Let me know when you purchase the game. I say, August 20th. He says, thank you. And then he says, thank you for allowing my time. I've checked it, and I found that your order is only for premium service. It does not contain the base game. I said, it says, quote, Battlefield 4 Premium pre-order. My receipt for $49.99. And he says, it is premium service. It does not contain the game, the base game. I said, what is premium service? He says, it's a pack which contains 5 DLC of the game, but base game is necessary for that. So I said, I thought it was called Battlefield 4 Premium. That's what that was, the game and the DLC. And he says, don't worry, I can cancel this order and provide you with a refund. And then he cancels my order and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just like, what?
Yeah, you know, the thing is, he probably like all day. That's all he ever does, all fucking day. Could you imagine that guy? Check support all day. It's like he's probably like, what the fuck? Why don't they just call it Battlefield 4 Premium DLC pack, right? Just call it that.
Why are you able to buy just the DLC all by itself without the fucking game?
No, that's okay, but it should say you need to buy the fucking game when you buy it. Asterisk. It should be big fucking asterisk that says that, right?
So the game is like what, 60?
Yeah, you have to buy Battlefield 4.
So I had to go buy the
Premium.
digital deluxe.
Right, which I bought after talking to Josh. Like, God damn it, now I got to go fucking buy that.
So the game is 60. Are you done with your rant? Am I?
No, go ahead. Just inject yourself. It's
No, it's
okay.
okay.
Everybody
Please-
expects it. Good.
please
Continue.
continue.
You may have valuable input.
Sorry, I know the listeners hate it when your rant gets
No,
interrupted, so-
no, that's
Now
good.
you're delaying it even further.
Okay, I'll shut
No,
up.
wait. What's your question?
I'll be quiet now. I can save it. my
No,
questions
question.
till the
What,
end of the
no,
year.
no. We can talk about the question. It could spur more yelling.
Well, I was curious about the game costs 60, and then this
Right.
essentially season pack costs 50. So that's $110 to get all the
Yes.
content.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's Battlefield plus 5 DLCs.
Right. And you know what I have a problem with that? First, Battlefield 4. You got to fucking buy it. Second, you're going to play it for, I'll probably play the thing for like 18 months. It's worth it. The third thing, it's not Call of Duty, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Battlefield 4, Battlefield 4 has always been one of the the main war franchise on the PC. It's always been pretty awesome.
Right.
I loved
It's expensive,
People
but come on.
bitch about everything, and and there's obviously has a. Nothing that's been around that long is perfect, But I loved Battlefield 3. I love Battlefield 2. We're all super stoked for it.
And I'm just going to preload all the fucking bitching because in about a week the game will come out. Let's just preload the bitching. But let's just say it now. It's going to be buggy. We know it's going to be buggy. It's always buggy when it comes out. Just expect it. Don't play for the first month.
Yeah, unbalanced weapons as well. It's gonna take them like 6 months to do that.
I tell you, man, that's got to be just that's got to be just like the most fucked job is to be a game developer, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, you can't do this with this weapon platform. You should be able to do this. It should be exactly like the last thing. Okay. There's 50,000 people complaining about this. Let's fix it. We're gonna change this. Everybody's voted on it, and then suddenly everybody's like, "Why did you change that? What you all said to change it? Yes, but we wanted you to change this, but not change this. You've changed this, so now it's changed that. So now we're gonna complain about that. It's like, okay, now we'll change this. Okay, why did you nerf the jets?
I remember in Battlefield 2 when they made it so you couldn't jump in the air and throw C4 and then detonate it when it landed. We are so fucking pissed. It's like you used to be able to creep up to a cap point and then just tuck it over the fence and then detonate it.
It's really
So
too
much
bad because it would be really tough to support. But they really should support like, okay, this is Battlefield 4. The actual, this is the game. We want everybody to play this, and then they're just like Battlefield 4 free for all, which is like, okay, we're just gonna leave all this shit all fucked up. Like this bug you can exploit. You can load a tank up with the C4 and blow up half the map or something like that.
It's kind of like that idea for the all drugs Olympics.
Is it?
Yeah,
I haven't heard of
you
that.
let everyone do anything they want, and then you have some awesome competition.
Right. It's just sort of like just fucking everything broken, whatever. Everybody can. Then everybody wants to play the old messed up stuff. They can do that, and then you have the people that can play the actual,
Yeah.
The problem,
version.
the problem that you're talking about, though, is that there's this society nowadays has this. Everything has to be premium and ultra and digital and gold and platinum. So they're like, all right, so the most basic thing you can have, which doesn't even include the game at all, is just called Battlefield 4 Premium. That's the problem, is they're naming it with this stupid naming scheme.
You mean it's like Doritos?
It should just be called. Yeah.
Extreme Edition.
They should just call it a season pass. I think it
You
would
know
be
what
more-
that's like? You know what's really fucking pisses me off
Everyone?
about that shit? It's like a fucking magazine cover, right? Because they're always selling that shit. Extreme this or Ultimate that. Oh, wait a minute. But yes, that's true.
We don't do that often, though.
Oh, yeah, come on. Everybody- we all do it.
Yeah, but we don't call out like the premium magazine then.
Right.
And then
Well,
give
one
you
thing to
just
keep in
this
mind-
Maximum PC, December edition, premium.
Yeah. and
What?
then-
Hey,
and
man,
then
there's all these
this
fucking
issue
pages are
only-
That's
blank.
what we need to
The issue
have.
only has
There's
ads in
nothing in this magazine. Fuck.
That's what we need to have is a
You bought the
premium.
premium edition.
We need to have a premium subscription where you get the magazine and the podcast.
No, no,
All you have
no,
to pay
no,
is,
no,
you only
no,
have to
no.
pay like 20 extra bucks.
No, no. Here's what
That
you do.
sounds like a bargain.
Like I said, you buy the premium edition. It comes with the cover and the ads. It's like no, the editorial. That's only in the. You got to buy the deluxe digital version. So deluxe digital, we send you the words you can insert into the magazine, right? So it makes sense. It's like nothing but just like all the outside shit, and then the extra for that.
We had this idea like a week ago. We were talking about there's going to be all these tiers, and then at the very top of the tier, we just email you the Word documents when we're finished writing them. And
Yes,
Then the
yes.
final tier, the final tier above that is you're actually watching us write it here. You're standing in our office just watching us write
And
it.
you can influence it for like the ultimate premium deluxe version.
Right.
Do they get to actually test it too? Is there like a version?
Maybe.
We'll have to work on
We're
that.
still working on that.
Yeah.
All right. This is, and then now I have to work in this somehow for the closer.
All right.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, everybody knows that
Yeah.
one.
I know, but I have to.
No,
We're trying to work on some new bumper music here.
Have people figured out that previous quote though?
Or we could do this guy right here. Here's another one.
Tell 'em what you want, Marmalade. Tell 'em what you want.
The fuck is that?
All right, sorry. Or this guy right here. Either way, we're working on some new cool stuff. That's the end of our podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate it. On behalf of Tom McNamara and Gordon Ung, thank you so much. If you want to visit our website, you can do so at MaximumPC.com. Make sure to subscribe on Google Play, iTunes, Kindle, Nook, and Zinio. Check us out on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. And that's about it for now. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.